Hi, welcome to What Are You Even Talking About, a podcast where we talk a little bit about everything. Today's guest is Sheila Balgobin, the Dream Decipherer. She helps you to crack the code of your sleep and dreams so you can sleep sound and dream deep. She is a fifth generation dreamer with the gift of dream interpretation and a natural intuitive. Her gifts are backed up with training as a practitioner and teacher of holistic therapies and qualification as a psychotherapist. She believes in the power of nature to heal the mind and body. She uses plant medicine, plant-based remedies, and simple techniques to help her clients reduce their stress levels, improve their sleep, and use their dreams to help create the best life possible for themselves. By encouraging clarity of thought and beneficial decisions. Welcome, Sheila. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Okay, so I like to start every episode with a question from the last guest. They come up with a random question to ask the next guest without knowing who the next guest is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question I have for you is, what is the pivotal moment in your life when you realized you reached a different spiritual level?
I think really it was when I decided to stop running away from my gift and embrace it. And that came particularly after a set of dreams actually saved my life from 9/11, as it happens. And that's when the penny dropped, and it's like, you know what? Dreams really are important and can have important messages for us, and not sharing that gift because it was one that I ran away from for many years. Not sharing that gift was doing a disservice, not only to myself, but to others who could be benefiting from the information deep within them.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
The first time that I realized that dreams actually meant something was when I was about 8 years old. As I said, as you said from your introduction, this is something. It's a gift. It's a family gift. The women in my family have this ability to work with dreams in some form or other. And my particular take on that gift is to be able to understand the meaning behind dreams. But in any case, I was 8 years old, and I had this at the time, a dream about 1 in the morning, and it was I dreamt that my six cousins and my aunt got burned out of their home. There was an electrical fire and the house burned down. And everybody got out safely except the dog. And it was the next day when another one of my aunts came to our house and asked my mother and I to gather what things we could to take to this other aunt and my cousins because they had been burned out by a fire. And you can imagine at 8 years old what kind of effect that had on me. It literally scared the daylights out of me that I had this dream. And so as I said, I ran, kind of shied away from being able to work with dreams for a very long time, for a good part of my growing up years. And it wasn't until later that I started to really share that gift and talk about it with other people. And it was finally at a women's retreat in Marrakesh in Morocco that I finally kind of owned up to working with dreams, and also finally took a course that I'd had sitting on my bookshelf for several years, and turned that into my signature course, which is the Dream Your Life, Live Your Dream interpretation course, where in 6 weeks I teach people how to work with their dreams. So it's really been kind of a long journey with regard to accepting who I am, and what I have to offer other people. And And it's an ongoing process because I have to do a lot of educating of people and to realize that dreams are not just the result of, cheap wine, too much cheese, or whatever the case may be. But that dreams, and research is bearing this out, that dreams have an actual purpose and it's not just a byproduct of sleep. That the dreams really are inner gurus. It's a fount of creativity. It's can help us to learn, even certainly make good decisions. I mean, for example, can you name anything that you think may have been the result of dreams? Anything come to mind?
Probably knowing when something's gonna happen, like something like pivotal's gonna happen.
Right.
I know in my own dreams, usually if something big is coming, I dream about it first.
Okay.
Like I have a lot of situations where I just know something's coming. I might not know what, but in my
Right.
dreams before that, like something crazy will happen or something
Hmm.
just that is, extreme. And I'll
Right.
wake up that night and be like, oh my God.
What is
And I'm
that?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, what is that? Where's it coming from? What's coming?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like I had a dream the other week and I had just had this conversation with my mom
Hmm.
about getting a car.
Right.
And I was like, God's gonna bring me a car, God's gonna bring me a car.
Hmm.
And in my dream, I got a car.
Right.
And it was from a friend, like a friend
Hmm.
just slapping to sell their car. And
Hmm.
I got the car.
Right.
So literally about 3 days ago, some friends came up and were like, we're selling one of our cars. Do you want it? It's really cheap. And I was like, oh no. Oh yes. Yes, yes, I do want the car. And so like I bought the car and I was like, my dreams told me, God told me, and I got the car. And I know that's hard to believe for people but it does work like that. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you'll just know something's for you.
Sure.
So I feel like my dream was letting me know, right then I was getting a car. I didn't know when. I didn't know it was going to be that soon, but it
Yeah.
literally was a few days ago, and I am so excited because of it.
Fantastic. I mean, but dreams tap into our deep inner wisdom of the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind has been likened to a vast ocean. And the part of us, the conscious part of us that says I, is this little cork that floats on that giant ocean, that vast ocean of the unconscious. So the unconscious mind is clocking everything all the time, even when we're asleep. So, you hear the birds singing outside, people arguing upstairs, that, this, that, the other happening. The unconscious mind throughout the day and night is clocking all of this information. And it's one of the functions of the brain during our sleep hours is to clear out the garbage, like remove plaque from the brain and things like that, but also consolidation of memory. And so all of the bits of information that it had been gathering, if you will, or taking note of during the day, gets sorted through. The garbage gets thrown out, and when any information that is pertinent or important for us gets floated up in a dream. It can come in other ways as well, but generally it gets floated up in a dream. The unconscious is saying, "Hey, hello, pay attention to this. It could be important for you." And so that's why it's really essential that we learn to respect our dreams more. I mean, empires have been won and lost because of dreams. Um, Inventors, entrepreneurs, songwriters, writers, novelists have all benefited from their dreams. I mean, I asked you the question about what things do you know of that have been developed as the result of the dream. I can give you several things right now. Google, first one. And Google is so eponymous that we Google things. I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
the result of a dream. Einstein's E equals MC squared. result of a dream. The double helix of DNA from a dream. The song Yesterday and Can't Get No Satisfaction, both of them the result of dreams. So sewing machines, all kinds of things have been invented because of dreams. So it's a resource that people are just not tapping into and ought to. What great business idea could they be missing out on because they're, dismissing their dreams?
I mean, and thinking about that, Abraham Lincoln, his wife had a dream that he was going to be shot at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And Julius Caesar's wife had the Ides of March. And she looked like she knew he was going to be stabbed at Senate. Like, it really is amazing how much dreams can affect our lives and other people's lives.
Exactly.
I want to ask you, do you think that synchronicity and dreaming are connected? Because Carl Jung talks a lot about synchronicity and the well of the unconsciousness. And, it feels like it's on the same platform. Like we have all these synchronicities throughout the day and it can connect to our dreams. And that's why we dream, that is because of the synchronicities that we're having in our lives.
Yes, there is certainly a relationship between, again, remember, as I said, the unconscious mind is clocking all of this stuff that's going on. I know from my own life, when I was in training as a psychotherapist, talking with my training therapist, and we were talking about children. And the role that children have played in my life. And I said, well, in this lifetime, I don't have any children, but I did have a child in another lifetime. And all of a sudden, we heard a baby crying. Now, this room is soundproofed. There is no children in the house, but we both heard this child crying. And it was just like, ooh. Wow. So, there's these little events that seemingly are random, but depending on the context, it becomes significant to the person. And that's what synchronicity is about. It could be an innocuous little event, but because of the timing and the context, it becomes significant to the person. And yes, that's those synchronicities. Sometimes we're consciously aware that these synchronicities have happened, but sometimes we're not. And that's when the unconscious comes in and floats this information up and says, take a look at this. This is something that could be pertinent to you. For me, dreams are a call to action. Whether it's just to develop a different mindset or attitude towards something, or to take a specific action. For me, as I was saying that, I had this dream, that these nightmares I was having about shipwrecks and stormy seas and all kinds of craziness. I would wake up terrified, absolutely terrified. And and what really scared me about that dream was I couldn't understand what it meant. And that was the first time in my life I'd not been able to understand, which frightened me even more. But, I noted the dream down and kind of put it aside, but I made a decision about something. And the decision was, rather than stay in New York, where I'm from, I decided to move back to London to join my husband there instead of having him join me in New York. And from the time I made that decision, the dreams stopped. Just stopped. Just as suddenly as they started, they stopped. It wasn't until a year later that I was working for a doctor's office, and I was coming back to work from lunch, and people are running around screaming, crying. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And all I could get out of people was tower, hit, planes. I was like, what? What? My mind just went completely blank. It's like I couldn't even understand what people were telling me, but I knew at that moment what those dreams were telling me. And what they were saying was, that they used the analogy, and dreams work by metaphor or analogy, as if I kept seeing shipwrecks and stormy seas. And in the early days of aviation, when we had those dirigibles, those blimps, what did they call those vehicles? Airships. shipwreck. So I mean, the mind, was telling me what was going on, but it was doing it in such a way. I think if I had seen it in any other way, it would probably really have given me a heart attack, because I used to walk through the towers every day as a stockbroker, every single day. And as it happens, I was already in London. The people, I have relatives who were cops. They were not in the area. I had a friend who worked in one of the World Trade buildings. She wasn't there. Somebody was supposed to come into work, the building that I worked in, later. The building that I worked in did not collapse, but it was connected to the towers by a land bridge going over I think it was the Second Avenue or whatever. I mean, not Second Avenue. I can't even think now. But in any case, it was connected to the towers. And I would, like I said, as a stockbroker, I walk through there every single day. So that was
It's
when the penny
amazing.
dropped for me that, yeah, dreams are important.
Yeah, my
They
my dad
really
was
are.
supposed to be there. My dad was supposed to be there that day, and he overslept and just kept him safe. Like I was in North Carolina, and they let us out of class early so we could try to call and get in contact with people that
Hmm.
day. And I couldn't get in touch with nobody. Nobody could get in touch with anybody. But he was like, I overslept. I'm not even there. He was like, I'm still in Long Island. I'm not even there. And it amazes me that a lot of people had that happen. Things like that happen with 9/11. Like there were so
Hmm.
many people that, knew it was coming before it came.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah, absolutely.
it's amazing. It was a terrible tragedy, but so many people didn't lose their lives because of things like dreams and just having a sixth sense about not being there. And it shows you how amazing the mind is, that it will give us interpretations of things that can save our lives sometimes
Yeah.
and, change our lives
Mhm.
so much.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a person who doesn't dream often.
Okay.
So, how would you help me when I don't dream often? But when I dream, it's really intense. It
Hmm.
feels like real life, but
Well, it is
it
real.
happens sporadically.
It is real. When we are in the dream state, it is as real as when we are awake and, conscious. It is real. So that to say that it's like it's real, no, it is real. When you are in that state, you are there, in that space, in that world. Now, for people who don't dream, one of the things that I teach in my course, simple exercises and techniques that people can learn to help them to not only sleep better, but to be able to recall their dreams, or if they're not dreaming at all, to be able to manifest or call up their dreams. So there are things that you can do to help. The simplest thing that you can do, and here's a tip for your listeners, is to have a small notebook and a pen or pencil by the bedside, because up to 90% of a dream can be forgotten in the first 5 minutes of waking up. And that's true for everybody, even me. So it's the kind of thing, you don't have to write War and Peace, but jot down, little bullet points to be able to jog your memory so that when you're fully awake, it will help jog your memory about what it is you were dreaming about. So that's a tip that people can, simple tip that people can do right now that can help the process. Now, the other thing that's interesting is when we are in tune with, because the conscious mind and the unconscious mind should work together. And when people say, why did I act like that? It's like, that wasn't me. Yes, it was you, but it's the unconscious part of you that it isn't, you're not aware of. So, to bring more coherence between the unconscious and conscious mind, which should be working together, dreams is one way to bridge that gap. There are other ways, but dreams are principally the way to be able to develop a relationship between the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. Now, when we are using that have that dynamic between the conscious and unconscious mind working, we actually dream less. I find that I don't dream a lot, but when I dream, it is significant. Because I'm an intuitive and I work with dreams, constantly in contact with my unconscious mind and picking up the synchronicities and clues that get thrown at me all day, every day, whether I'm awake or asleep. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that you don't dream much. It may mean that you're able to pick up information that is pertinent to you while you're awake. So it's not like the unconscious mind has to keep poking you to let you
Yeah.
know that there's information that you need to have or look at or be aware of. So, but as you say, when you do dream, the dreams are quite intense. They're quite real. You're there wherever it is you are in that dream. You're there, and that's because the information is important enough that your unconscious deems it, that it has to float that information and make you aware of it. So, that's not a bad thing that necessarily that you're not dreaming enough, or you're not dreaming very much. Now, I talk about repetitive dreams. This dream that I was having that kept repeating and repeating and repeating till I finally got the message and made a decision that shifted the reality of my waking life. And that's, I think, the purpose of repetitive dreams. It's like, you didn't get it? Okay, I'm gonna send it again. You still didn't get it? All right, I'm going to send it again. And I'm going to keep sending it until you get it. Now, what's interesting about that is that with these recurring dreams or repetitive dreams, as I say, they will keep coming in, it may be variations, but the same message is being presented for us to look at. Now, if we get some of the message, but not all of the message, what will happen is it's like, okay, you got the first bit, but let me send you the dream again with some changes so you can get the rest. So it will tweak the dream so that the information that still hasn't been understood is presented in a slightly different way, so that to enable us to be able to pick up on that information.
I know when I was a kid, I had this dream that happened over and over again. Like I would get crucified in the dream.
Hmm.
And like it was terrifying to me, especially as a kid. Like, and I felt like it was because, of being in church all the time. Like we spent every day in church. And, so there was a lot of allegory and a lot of thinking
Mm-hmm.
about Christ and the crucifixion and like Armageddon and all that stuff. And when I got older, I changed my mindset, like, because I was a very negative person. And so I changed my mindset and I became very positive and trying to, fix my life, better my life. And they all of a sudden stopped.
Yeah, well, and that was exactly. Remember, I said that dreams are a call to action of some
Yeah.
kind, and it could be changing a mindset. It could be taking a physical action, or or at least developing a different perspective on something. And you unconsciously heeded the call and made a decision to look at your life in a different way or approach life in a different way, and that message had been received, so it didn't need to send it anymore. And that's exactly what repetitive dreams are about. It's like, I'm going to keep sending this message until you get it. And if we're not listening, the messages can get more and more in your face, I guess is the way to put it. To give you an example of what I mean by that, I went visiting a friend of mine when I was living in London. I was visiting a friend of mine who had a stroke and was in rehabilitation. And at the time, there was a lot going on in my life, and I was very, very busy. And I kept getting the message: take it easy, take a break, slow down, stop doing so much. And it was like, no, 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 I got to get this done. I got to do this. I got to go here. I got to go there. And on the way back from visiting my friend, I was walking home because it was in walking distance. All of a sudden, it was like a slow train wreck, and I just tripped. Nothing around me, nobody around me, and I just tripped. There was nothing that tripped me, but it was like I said, a slow train wreck. I just kept falling, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop myself. I fell in the middle of the street, but there were cars coming towards me, but they were so far away that they were able to see me and actually come to a stop before they got to me. And they asked, are you okay? Do you need a ride home? And it's like, no, I mean, I'm okay. I hobbled my way home, but I was off my feet for like 3 weeks. And that was because the universe kept saying, take a break, slow down, stop. And I wasn't listening. So the universe literally gave me a shove in the back and said, you won't sit your ass down. I'm going to make you sit down. And that's what happened. I had to sit down for like 3 weeks.
See, now that you say that, see, in my life, I've been thinking about taking a break too. And everything is telling me to slow down. Like, you
I'm
can't do
telling you,
everything.
slow down,
I
please.
better slow down then, because I do not need anything to happen to
Yeah, you
where
don't.
it stops me. So I
That's
better
right.
try to calm down some.
That's right.
But I
Even if it's just a long weekend or something like that, just, take a break because, when we keep getting these messages and we ignore them, it's like the universe will find another way to make you pay attention. Absolutely make you pay. Yeah. And
I do
some of them
not
are
need the
quite
other way.
painful.
Yeah, I'm not trying to have none of that. I have none of that. I have enough going on in my life. Um, there's a topic I wanted to talk about. It's when you can control your dreams. I can't think of the term.
Lucid
Like,
dreaming.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, 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 lucid dreaming. Do
Now,
you incorporate that at all?
yes, I do. I mean, I even offer a master class on lucid dreaming, and they find that people who naturally recall their dreams more have a tendency to be able to do lucid dreaming. I know I have had lucid dreams where I'm aware that I'm dreaming. And in very significant moments in my life, I've had these lucid dreams where it was almost like I'm kind of like standing off somewhere in a corner and watching, like I'm watching TV, watching all of this stuff happening. I'm in the dream, but I'm observing the dream. And lucid dreaming is basically where there's a part of our mind that is still awake and aware, and therefore it becomes the observer. So we observe ourselves, if you will, or observe a situation. Now it's funny because one of my cousins, I found out not too long ago, last time I was visiting in New York a few months ago, that she lucidly dreams all the time. She's like, I don't like that outcome. No, I'm not having that. I'm changing it. And she will actually intervene in the dream and change it. So it says it is something that people can learn to do. Some people have a more natural ability to do it. I find that I don't lucidly dream all the time, but it's usually very important when I do. It's some very life-changing kinds of decisions that I need to make when I have these lucid dreams. Um, so yeah, that is something that some people do all the time, some people only occasionally. It is a skill that can be learned with practice. And one of the things that's important with regard to lucid dreaming is having the ability to remember your dreams in the first place. So working on and in my course, that's one of the things that I work on is to get people to be able to tap into their dreams more and be able to remember them better. Because once you get to that point where you become the observer, and not just the participant, that's when lucid dreaming occurs.
I think that can help also with your waking life.
Mhm.
Becoming the observer in your life and seeing the things that are happening and not
Mhm.
reacting, how we would usually react.
Sure.
Instead of, taking a break, calm down, look at it, and then come at it with a sense of knowing, you want a different outcome. Um,
Yes,
I,
absolutely.
yeah, because I know in my own life, once I stopped reacting and became the observer in my life, life became easier. Um, and I feel like that's what we can learn from dreams is the fact that we can also become the observer in our waking lives.
Sure.
And it's hard for people to do that because of everything that's coming at us at once and how
Mhm.
life is. And so we literally need to just take a step back, observe the situations we're in, and
Mhm.
figure out what needs to be changed and change them. And that's a big thing for me is, I'm all about mindset and effort. And, the effort we put in is what we'll gain from it. And I just tell people that everything snowballs. Everything we do snowballs into whatever direction we take it.
Sure.
And we have to literally, we either escalate a situation or we drop a situation.
Mhm.
So like literally if we think a situation is not going our way, we can escalate it to fix the situation.
Yeah.
And if it's not that big of a deal, we can drop it and not be upset about it. Usually it would make us mad or something like that. Just drop it. And I was trying to teach that to a friend of mine yesterday because she was just so angry about so much, like so many things. And I was like,
Mhm.
"Can you change it?" And she'd be like, "Well, no." I'm like, "Then drop it. Just drop it. If you feel like you can change it, escalate it."
Yeah.
And she was just like, "Huh." And I was like,
I know it seems like it's so simple, but
"Yeah,
I mean, people are ready to extrapolate it and take it to the next level and get all bent out of shape about stuff. When a simple shift in perspective can make all the difference. I mean, like I said, I like to use the expression "it's mind over matter." If you don't mind, it don't matter.
yeah,
And that's true. That's very, very true. That we the things that we need to take to heart, we kind of gloss over, and the minor irritations of the day are the things that kind of we dwell on. I mean, I've noticed over the years I had developed like five basic categories of dreams, and one of the categories is the smokestack. So it's burning off the remains of the day. Somebody cuts you off on the way to work. Your boss is getting on your back. Your teenagers are driving you crazy. You've had a fight with your spouse. All of those little things, those little minor irritations. I mean, they're not life changing irritations generally, that the unconscious mind will, as it does its sifting work through the night, will float that stuff off just to burn it off, get rid of it. So it's not clogging up your circuitry, if you will, when you during the day. So the purpose of dreams, there are several purposes of dreams. I mean, that I was speaking in a live that I did recently about um, teaching people having common dreams, like two people having the same dream or something like that. And I know from experience, from working with clients, that can happen. One client, who's also a colleague of mine, she had asked a question in her dream, and the next day her husband gave her the answer, and he didn't know about the dream. She hadn't even mentioned it to him, but he gave her the answer that she was looking for.
wow,
um, uh, Another client of mine, he was giving spiritual teachings, esoteric teachings to one of his sons and the son's friend. The next day, the son comes to the dad and his wife and said, I had this dream about this, that, and the other, and I was learning these words, and he repeated back what was being taught, not perfectly, but close enough that the dad knew. It's like, oh, you did get that information. So We can dream in common. I mean, there's and cultures around the world have been doing communal dreaming where they're dreaming for the community, not just for the individual, but for the community. From the Navajo and Hopi people in the southwestern US who sit down and the elders sit down and dream the dreams that their great or the world that their great grandchildren will inherit in Dreamtime in Australia, for the Aborigine people there. I mean, they're communal dreaming and doing dancing and things like that to act out or reenact the dream time, which is like the time before time, is a common thing. So, I mean, and there's still cultures around the world that set great store by communal dreaming, where one person maybe had the dream, but it has an impact, a wider impact around the whole of the community. And we in the West have become so sophisticated that we don't do things like sit down together. We barely sit down together to eat, much much less to sit down and create the world that we want to see. I mean, we are creating it, but unconsciously and badly. But that's another story for another day. But to sit down consciously and to create that world, that dream together, is something that in the West has largely have fallen by the wayside.
Well, I mean, it's like when, in the West, we don't have shamans like they do in other parts of the world. We, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as prevalent to us
No,
in the West.
no,
And
it's not.
I feel like we need that in our lives. I think it would help a lot. I was speaking to someone about spiritual awakenings and psychosis and the relation that they have together. And when I went through my psychosis and spiritual awakening, I was having waking dreams. I was falling asleep a lot. And I would literally be sitting straight up and I would just fall asleep for a little bit and I'd wake back up. I'd fall asleep a little bit and wake back up. But I was having these conversations with people in my life. And, there were arguments and fights. And I would literally say something in the dream and they would comment back. And then literally about 2 days later, I would have this encounter with them and it would be that fight. And I'd be like, I already know you've already said this to me. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm like, I've had this conversation with you before. And they're like, no, we've never talked about this before. And I'm like, but I have. And it was literally in these waking dreams I was having. And I got over it in the dreams before I got over it in
The
life.
3D, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I was just like, so now I'm being far more calm about the situations and they're just in an uproar. And I was like, I've already done this. I don't have to do it again.
Well, it's funny you say that because during my training, my psychotherapy course, I had a dream, a very short dream. And dreams, even if they seem very short, are very dense. They can communicate a lot of information in a short burst of, in times frame. But I had this dream where at the time I was a martial artist and I was dreaming that I was looking for my uniform. Now, the uniform that my group would wear was white, but I was putting on black clothing and I couldn't find my belt, which was a sign of my rank. So I get to my class that day, and one of the tutors, who for whatever reason just decided that she just didn't like me or anything about me, starts having a go at me. And to the point where I was so upset, I was literally brought to tears, but tears of anger. It wasn't even tears of hurt. It was tears of anger. I was just so pissed off. Till it was just like, Lord, I went into the bathroom, splashed water on my face. I said, Lord, please help me calm down because I'm going to kill this woman with my bare hands if she says another word to me. I mean, I was literally like, you know what? I'll give her one hit. She'd be down. No lie. That's how I was feeling. And then on my way home, I started to laugh because the people on the train must have thought I was crazy because it's just like, what is she laughing about? it dawned on me what that dream was telling me. I mean, I was preparing for battle,
Yeah.
literally, even though, I mean, the style of martial arts that I did was not about being defensive. We call it playing capoeira rather than, actually being a fight. But I was not wearing my white uniform, which is that, we play in peace. I was wearing black. So it was already a darker, heavier energy. And I was being warned, and I couldn't find my belt. So I was, in a sense, defenseless. And this woman just tore into me for no good reason. She just decided she was just going to, bust my balls. And it was just like, what did I do to
What to
deserve this? I
do?
said, if I had been, like, I was literally running out the door when this dream, a few minutes before I had to have this dream. So I didn't have time to sit and actually think about what it was trying to tell me. I just had to literally run out the door and go to class. So, and it was just like, I just wish I had been, a bit more aware so that I wouldn't have reacted, or I would have reacted differently to this woman just, making my life miserable unnecessarily. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting messages all the time, being given clues about things all the time. Sometimes, it may be immediately, it may be a few days later. In the case of my nightmares, it was a year later. But I mean, it was giving information that, if on a of some future event that I needed to pay attention to, and unfortunately, I didn't that time. So,
I had a dream where I was seeing people I knew as different deities
hmm
and gods, and everyone took on a certain form. Like everyone took a certain god that they were in my life.
hmm
And then there was the all-encompassing God that was over everything. And he said, I'm gonna give you the power to see everything. And I was like, but how do you see everything? And he said, well, you can't close your eyes. And I said, but how do you sleep with your eyes open? And he said,
I think you
you're not gonna
third
sleep.
third
Yeah, and
eye.
see, I didn't at the time. I was just like, I didn't
You
know
didn't
what
get it.
I
Yeah.
didn't get it, and I was like, how am I gonna see everything? Just how do you see everything? And it was like, just watch. And I would sit on my back porch, and I would just try to keep my eyes open. And the more I tried to keep my eyes open, the more tired I got. And I was like, this is crazy. And I would literally go to sleep every time in this chair, and it was like I could see the universe. And only when I was asleep though, and I'd wake up, it would be like turning off the light. And I didn't understand why.
hmm
And, and the people that took on certain deities to me, showed me later on that this is how they were represented in my mind.
hmm
And like I said, this is how I see them. Like one person was the world serpent from Viking mythology.
Okay.
And somebody was what was the others? We had somebody who was Loki, and then we had someone who was Thor, and there was Ares, the god of war, which I saw as myself, and because my name actually means god of war, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, it just happened. But that's how I was seeing everything in this
hmm
divine way, and I couldn't explain it to anybody. Like
hmm
everyone was like, "You're just going crazy. You're just going crazy," and I was like, "No, but this is how I depict you in my life as this type of being."
Right.
And, it shows the reverence I have for you because I see you as a God, but not as in I see you as a God. And
hmm
people just could not understand, and I couldn't explain it for the life of me. Could not get anyone to understand what I was talking about, and they just refused to try. And it just made it so hard. And I wish I could have, described it better, but it really helps me in my life to put people in the places that they needed to be in my life. Like I was showing that I was giving way too much reverence to everybody and not giving reverence to myself. And
Mm.
that was a big lesson I had to learn because it showed me that I was a people pleaser, and I always wanted the best for everybody, but not everyone always wants the best for you.
Absolutely. I mean, and
So
if being that you finally got the message is a good thing. I mean, it may
yeah,
have taken a while, but when, like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears kind of thing. I mean, you were your own teacher, and when you were ready to understand, then the lesson took.
yeah,
And that's exactly what it is. It's just like our everybody's journey is different, everybody's understanding is different.
yeah,
And even getting people to understand that dreams have an importance can be hard work at times. Like I said, it's cheap wine, too much cheese, late nights, whatever it is they think, may think about dreams, or they think that there's something shameful about them. I mean, and unfortunately Freud had a lot to do with that. I mean, but
yeah,
I though I worked with, when I was training, I looked at Freudian theory, but I found that Jung actually resonated with me more, or as I like to say, I was Jungian before I even knew what that was, because Jung's theory was that the dreams will not only indicate what the issue is, it will also point the way to a solution. So, I mean, he was a psychiatrist and he dealt with people who had severe mental disturbances at times. But when he started tapping into their dreams, what he found is that um, the dreams were showing what the issue was and also a possible way forward. And I have found that with my own clients, is that I'm not a psychiatrist. I mean, so I don't look at dreams from the point of view of it being like an organic problem, a physical problem, but an emotional issue. I've had clients who were seeing therapists for maybe years, but therapists who never looked at their dreams, and it's like two sessions with me, and it opened something up, and they were able to shift something that they had been working on with for years with no change. So, I mean, like I said, the dreams will point the way to out of a situation or towards a new situation, if you will. I mean, which is a more positive way of looking at it. So there is deep, deep knowledge within us. I mean, the purpose of um, uh, our mental capacities is to create homeostasis, so that our organism, whether you're talking about physically, emotionally, or spiritually, needs to be in balance. Now, if we're too much to one side or too much to the other, it's not good. If you're all spiritual, that's not useful either. If you're all, grounded in the physical world, that's not, because we're both. We're not either or, we're both and both have to be addressed in order for balance to occur. And I'll give you a funny story about how the unconscious mind acts as a counterweight to our conscious mind. Now, you're probably roughly about the same age as me, and there was on the show called Saturday Night Live, there used to be this character called the church lady. I don't know if you
yes,
remember that.
yeah,
But she was always going around pointing her finger at all these slack and loose people, and all how their morals were in the gutter and blah 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 blah. But what people didn't know is that church lady, when she would go to sleep at night, she was having like these wild sex parties with all kinds of people. So, and that's what I mean about being a counterbalance. So, however out of whack we are in our conscious life, our waking life, our dreams become that much more outrageous as a counterbalance. So if we're acting really crazy in some kind of way in our waking life, our dreams will reflect that. And hopefully, if we're paying attention, it will be a call for us to kind of check ourselves and come back into some sort of equilibrium, rather than being totally out of whack in one end. So the two act as counterbalances to one another. So if we're having really crazy dreams, it's like, okay, what's going on in my waking life that is out of kilter and really not what it should be? And then kind of work towards how to bring ourselves back into equilibrium.
See, I'm glad we had this whole conversation today because I've had so many synchronicities throughout it. Like, I'm originally from New York as well.
Mhm.
Um, my dad used to work in smokestacks.
Okay.
Um, I just bought two Carl Jung books, one being the Red Book and the other one being Synchronicities.
Okay.
And it's just blowing my mind right now because I'm just like, I'm getting it, and it really is hitting home. And I feel a lot better about not dreaming now. Um, because I was like, maybe I'm getting back, I'm going back, I'm reverting back to a place where I didn't want to be in my life. And I was like, no, you're doing good. You're doing really good. And your dreams are showing you that because you're not having as many wild dreams and you're not having as much to have to
Exactly.
deal with in your subconscious. So that really helps me feel better about myself. So
Well,
thank you so
good.
much for
I'm
that.
glad. I'm glad
Uh,
that our conversation has helped with that. But yeah, I mean, people think, oh, but I don't dream, but we do dream. All mammals dream, and if you've ever had a cat or dog, seeing them bark or hiss in their sleep or digging or something,
yeah,
they're dreaming. I've uh, about a couple of years ago now, I was reading an article, and even apparently spiders dream. So
wow.
yeah, somebody's doing some research in the Amazon looking at, I think it's funnel spiders. And I don't know how they managed to, but they managed to attach electrodes to the legs so that, like we have these random movements when we're sleeping that
Yeah,
may indicate that we're dreaming. And that apparently, though, they couldn't attach electrodes to their brains, obviously, but the electrodes to test the muscle activity indicated that they most certainly were dreaming. And it seems to be linked to learning, maybe learning how to build their funnels,
yeah.
funnel webs, or how to capture prey. Who knows? I mean, we'll never really know what they're dreaming about, but that they're dreaming, they're dreaming. So it's a natural phenomenon to dream. It's only that the so-called higher animals, such as people, and probably dolphins, because their brains are bigger than ours,
Yeah.
are consciously aware that they're dreaming, that, that we know that we're dreaming, and then can do something with that or not as we choose.
Oh, that's amazing. We are truly amazing creatures, and dolphins as well. It's
Mm,
whales too. Whales have pretty
yeah.
big brains,
Yes, they
and so
do.
like they definitely have to dream. I mean,
Oh,
you
yes,
would
they
think,
do. I mean, they will dream with, apparently one part of their brain is awake and keeping them from drowning, literally,
yeah, yeah,
while the other half is dreaming. So yeah, I mean, they're even more sophisticated when it comes to dreaming than we
yeah.
are, in that sense. But yeah, it's a natural process, and to show you how much of a necessity it is. It's not just a byproduct of sleep. There was a study done in, I believe, the University of Chicago, and the researchers were doing a sleep study, and they were looking at two groups of women and then a control group. The control group was women who were happily married and not seeking divorce or separation or anything like that. The other two groups were women who had gone through bad divorces, very messy divorces. One group that dreamed, and the other group that did not. And what they found was when they would wake up these women during REM sleep, when we're dreaming, and ask them what they were dreaming about, they would say that they were dreaming about their ex or dreaming about some aspect of their relationship. The upshot of all that is that the women who dreamed about their ex, or some aspect of the relationship, actually recovered more fully and more quickly than the women who said they couldn't remember their dreams or didn't dream at all. So
Oh,
there's an act. It's our inner therapist, to be
yeah.
honest. It really is, and people just don't give their inner wisdom enough credit, shall we say?
I would say it's part of intuition. Then it'd be definitely an intuitive process.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, it would have to be.
Right.
Huh. That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. So I mean that there's a wealth of information that's waiting to be tapped into in our dreams. Like I said, from business decisions to personal decisions, there's all kinds of information that we could be tapping into and taking advantage of. Be when we dream. I mean, during lockdown, I was living in London still, and I created a whole course, not only around what I was observing with regard to who was thriving during lockdown, but because there were dreams that were like snippets of dreams that were kind of like talking to me about this and indicating, maybe I need to investigate that more. And that became a course as well, to for people to develop more resilience and creativity, even under the circumstances we were living under. And I got that from observing what was going on around me, who was thriving in that environment, as well as my dreams. So the two kind of came together, that conscious observation and that unconscious kind of drawing it all together, that enabled me to create a course. And this is what I mean, is that there is a potential of all kinds of creativity occurring when we listen to our dreams.
Say, I'm gonna have to start, putting that journal back beside my bed because I need some inspiration for the book I'm trying to write, and that would definitely help some. That might help a lot actually. But we
Yeah.
are running out of time, and I want to ask you this last question.
Mm-hmm.
What is the question you have for the next guest without knowing who the next guest is?
Let's see. I would ask, how often do you listen to your inner wisdom with regard to the very situations you face in your life?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I had one more. I did have one more question, and that's how can my listeners reach you if they would like your services?
Well, my website is called crackyourdreamcode.com.
Okay.
So they can go there. And there, if you look up the Dream Decipherer on Instagram, on YouTube, or LinkedIn, TikTok, I mean, any of those social media platforms, if you look up the Dream Decipherer, you'll find me.
Thank you for being on the show today.
Oh,
It's been a
thank you.
wonderful conversation. It's definitely been enlightening. And I want to have you back on the show. I always want to have all of my guests back on the show at least once because I never get to get the full range of their knowledge. And I love to learn everything that they give. So thank you once again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. And I would love to come back and revisit and see what new dreams you've come up with.
Yeah, because my dreams be crazy. My dreams be crazy. Last night was a pretty rough one. But I woke up in the middle of the night and was like, nope, no. I'm just
Oh,
gonna
dear.
I was like, I'm just gonna calm down from that one. I'm gonna drink something, take a drink, maybe smoke a cigarette, and just process. And that's
Yeah.
all I did.
Yeah,
But
sometimes that's what you need to do, is to process the information and get past what I call finding the gold in the gobbledygook.
yeah,
Because messages can be packaged in a way that seem nonsensical, but really is a logic. It's a different logic, perhaps, than our waking minds, but it's very logical. Like, I use the example of airships and shipwrecks in my dream. um I mean, it had a very logical progression, and maybe if it had been shown another way, it would have probably scared me to such an extent that who knows what would have happened. I mean, I certainly couldn't tell anybody about that. They would have thought I was crazy or plotting something, you know.
Yeah.
So,
See,
you know.
that's my issue is I always want to tell people stuff, and I just take the whole thinking I'm crazy and just going with it. I should really stop doing that. I think that's what that dream was also telling me.
Could be. Yeah, sometimes you don't need to tell everything you know. That's true.
Yeah, that's usually my problem. That is usually my problem. But like I said, thank you for being on the show, and I like to end every episode with thank you for today, thank you for yesterday, and thank you for tomorrow. Always remember to question your reality, and at every end, there is a beginning. You guys take
Absolutely.
care, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye. And that wraps up another thought provoking episode of What Are You Even Talking About? We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the discussion we had today. Before we go, we want to extend a huge thank you to our amazing guest. Your insights and expertise truly enriched our conversation, and we're grateful for your contribution. And of course, a massive thank you to you, our incredible audience. Your engagement, questions, and feedback make this podcast what it is. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect. Thank you for today. Thank you for yesterday. Thank you for tomorrow. Always remember to question your reality, and at every end, there is a beginning. We love the journey we're on with each and every one of you. Keep those questions coming, keep challenging the status quo, and keep exploring the uncharted territories of your mind. We can't wait to dive into another riveting conversation in our next episode. Until then, take care, stay curious, and keep asking, what are you even talking about? Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and connect with us on social media. We'll catch you in the next one. You guys take care.